Carl Mason, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers podcast today.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
We're happy that you're here too. And being happy is kind of like being grateful. And we want to know what you're grateful for right now in this moment.
Right now in this moment, I am grateful for the experiences that give me the opportunity to help other people live better, healthier, happier lives. That's my number one gratitude right now.
And, you know, it's funny how so many health coaches, so many doctors, we thrive on being able to help other people and their success is adrenaline for us and gets us going. It's the best feeling.
It absolutely is. Sometimes these conversations, I had a call yesterday with a client, and I was just such a simple report was just so energizing. It's just so amazing when people are making progress in a positive way, changing their lives. It's awesome.
And that's why they say serving others brings you more gratefulness and gratitude and brings you more awareness to everything that you're able to do, and just improves your self-value and self-esteem. And it's just part of it, full circle. It's great.
Absolutely. And that's what I love when it is full circle. It's working both ways. It's a beautiful thing.
It's definitely a beautiful thing, and plants are a beautiful thing. So we were wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your plant-based journey and how you found it.
Well, my plant-based journey began after 5 years of conventional treatment for cancer. I had stage 4B large cell lymphoma 3 times over the course of 5 years. And all I was doing was getting worse. And I had been actually given 4 to 6 weeks to live. No options, no further treatment options. My oncologist told me that the chemo was killing me. The radiation had caused enormous physical damage. And I needed another option, and I didn't know what that option was, but through a revelation experience, I found that option, and part of it was plant-based nutrition. I didn't understand that in the slightest at the time. I grew up growing gardens, and I thought that eating fresh from the garden, and I thought that was all good. But what I didn't understand was I was soaking everything in kelthane and all of this kind of stuff. So I didn't know what healthy eating was, and I certainly didn't understand a plant-based diet. I grew up in the five fried food dinners as a kid, and if it was a healthy vegetable, it was fried. So it was a big learning curve for me, but it was incredible. I went into it with the idea of full commitment, all in, and no excuses, no whining, no complaining. Do it. And I fell in love with it. I absolutely fell in love with it. And it was very extreme for me at the beginning. For the first 30 days, all I ate was boiled rice, boiled beans, steamed greens, and steamed vegetables. No oil, no seasoning, nothing. So I really went in an all-in, really strict approach. But then I learned and I grew, and what really resonated with me was the abundance of nature. That there's just so much abundance, and the lifestyle, the nutritional lifestyle that I knew before was actually very, very restricted by comparison to this new world that just opened up to me. And
I think that's key. And that's something that a lot of people don't recognize. They say, oh, but you can't eat this, you can't eat that. And really, there's only 5 things that they say that we can't eat, right? You can't eat chicken, you can't eat beef, you can't eat fish, you can't eat eggs, you can't eat dairy. Great, but look at all these other things that we can eat. I remember having one client whose family was upset that they felt like she was restricting herself more because of the plant-based, but all the other things that she ended up having on her plate because of it was really what got her through, and that was amazing.
Did you switch to that like overnight? Like you went overnight, I'm going 30 days, only boiled rice and potato or whatever.
It was cold turkey, all in. And, it was very bizarre to me. And in the process, they were introducing me to all these weird foods that I'd never heard of before. Umeboshi plums and soba noodles and just so many different things that I had no clue about prior to that. But they were teaching me this, but they wouldn't let me have it. So it was just so straightforward. But then after the 30 days, I just built in more and more and more. And I just discovered a whole world of food that I didn't know even existed. And now when I deliver the client that I was on before this call, when I delivered her nutrition guide, it's a 70-page guide. And it's not that it's complicated, because it actually is very easy, but that's just how abundant it is. It's just so abundant. And that's
So
what,
how did your health change when you went plant-based? What did you feel different? Was there room to feel
oh,
different? What happened from there?
it was a night and day change for me. I had undergone 5 years of chemo radiation, nothing but pain and suffering, nothing but fear of death, nothing but the promise of death. To in 30 days, I was alive. I was just alive. I was back to working out. I was back to building my business. I was cancer-free 30 days. So I'd spent 5 years undergoing all of that trauma, and 30 days with plant-based plus some other tools, just a complete transformation.
It's amazing.
Did they give you the option of cooked foods or raw foods as like a lifestyle, like plant-based cooked or plant-based raw, or that was just the protocol?
Mostly cooked, and it's about energy. It's about an energy exchange. It's about ease of digestion. A couple reasons behind it, but it was predominantly cooked. Juices, some juices, but not exclusively juices. You know, I know there are plant-based protocols out there that 10, 12 juices a day. Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. All raw foods, I just don't find it sustainable for most people. It just doesn't work. And it's not, then you get even more restrictive, because there's so many things that you can't eat raw. You know, you can't, you're not going to munch on a bowl of raw beans.
Right. Or raw potatoes.
Right.
Yeah. And it is significantly more expensive, especially since you're throwing away so much of the food, right? Like you're juicing down everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Taking out the fiber.
Yeah.
You are. And people are scared of fiber, but plant-based is fiber, and it's a beautiful, wonderful thing.
So 30 days of changing your nutrition and adding in some of these other tools, the cancer was actually in remission. It was gone.
It was gone.
Wow.
It was gone. It's been 26 years.
Wow.
26 years, cancer-free.
Fantastic.
After 5 years of all of that, I was just like, oh my gosh, why hadn't the world told me this before? You know, I wish I'd have known, but I'm blessed that I know now. And it's an incredible tool. I realized the gift of the experience. It was hard, didn't enjoy much of it, but once that revelation came and I gained that awareness and the opportunity, it was just blessing, an incredible blessing and a gift to me.
So in terms of the cancer coaching that you do now, I'm assuming your own personal experience and personal journey and gratitude for what you've gone through comes through in the coaching that you do now to help your clients get through as well.
I think the attraction often is that it is my experience. It's that there's a real person that really did this. You know, oftentimes there are other leaders in the industry that haven't experienced it personally. They've got great protocols, but I think what is setting me apart a little bit right now is that I'm coming at it from an experience, from a very dramatic experience. Most people would have expected me the story to have ended with me in the grave, because even today, my cancer remains considered incurable. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And so I come at it from an experiential base, but I've also done a lot of research. So at the time, I just was doing what I was told. I was just in blind faith, just taking this opportunity, and I didn't understand why I was being told to do X, Y, and Z. So I spent the next 26 years understanding why I'm doing it and why it makes sense to do it. It just became very logical to me. So logical that I was an A+, in the running for valedictorian student. And I'm like, how in the world did you not know this stuff, girl? It's so, once you have that revelation moment, it's just so logical.
It seems like it should be common knowledge for a lot of us. And you hear so many people say, I just never intuitively liked meat, or
Mm.
I always was drawn more to vegetables. So it's almost like if we sit down, or the general population, not us, we're past that point, but if the general population were to sit down and kind of follow their intuition, that's where it would go. But society is just teaching us differently. And it's easy to go along with it and not question it because it just is so mainstream.
It is, and it has been now for, especially with television and online media, the last 40, 50 years have just been so off track from nature. And so there aren't very many people left alive on the planet that have ever experienced authenticity in nutrition and natural lifestyles.
Definitely not.
So you mentioned the plant-based nutrition, and you teased us with the tools that you use. Are you able to share some of those tools with us?
Yeah, well, one of the big tools is mindset. That was one of the big things I realized. One of my causations for cancer was an extremely abusive childhood. And there was a lot of anger, a lot of repressed anger. I thought that I had dealt with it because I escaped it, and I was building my beautiful American dream life, married, the house, the cars, the dogs, the businesses. I had 3 businesses by the time I was 26. And so I thought that I had dealt with it, but I hadn't at all. I had just walked away from it. But it was all still shoved down in here. And so mindset, learning to let go, learning forgiveness, learning to hijack the subconscious recordings that were driving me, because everything that I was achieving out of resentment and anger. That was my fuel, but that was wrong. So that was a huge one. So mindset became a very big player, and then just detoxing my surroundings, detoxing my life as a whole, detoxing the house, detoxing the personal care. Those things became very big, very important. So I made radical changes. I really made radical changes across the board, including nutrition. The whole process was what most people perceive as being very radical. And it is part of the coaching programs that I do now.
And what about hydration? Where does that fit in for you?
Well, hydration is absolutely essential. Whereas I find a lot of programs focus on juicing, and there's great hydration in juicing, but I don't find that that's sufficient. I think we need to go, again, we just need to keep it actually very simple, just good old-fashioned, clean, quality water. Imagine that. I mean,
It seems too simple for most people. It's like eating fruits and vegetables, too easy, and drinking water, too easy. It must be something more to it.
It can't possibly work because it's just too simple. It has to be hard and complicated, and I have to suffer my way through it. It's just not, it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what I tell people all the time. People say to me, weren't you miserable that 30 days? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I just felt that the shift was so rapid and so extensive that I was just all in. And it just became very simple and a very pleasant experience to me.
Did you detox emotionally or physically at that time too?
I did. Emotional detox was very big, but I had to learn, and something that I've had to accept, and I've learned more about it in the last year, but I had to learn that letting go wasn't about it disappearing. It doesn't just disappear. I saw a post yesterday, somebody said, you have to forget your past in order to live your future. And I don't agree with that. I don't think you ever can forget it. If you're forgetting it, then you're repressing it. Letting go isn't forgetting it. Forgiving isn't forgetting it. It's like I call it kind of my catch and release program, except I say accept and release. So you accept that it happened. You allow yourself to experience it. You allow yourself to acknowledge it and recognize its presence and to love it and nurture it, but learn from it. And in learning from it, then you release it, you let it go, and the impact, the negative impact changes, and it's reframed with positive outcome. Like saying cancer is a blessing. I say that very often, and people say, are you kidding me? Cancer is just this horrible disease, and now it's so, and they get really upset and frustrated by it. But I see it as a blessing, and I now see the abuses of my childhood as a blessing, because that's what's enabled me to do what I do. And but that's a very important part of the mindset, to accept and release, I believe.
Have you had to use that at other times throughout your life? Like, have there been other health issues that have come up where you've had to go through those same processes?
Yes, when my bizarre and sudden onset blindness occurred, that was a huge opportunity for me to take that practice to a new level. And it also, that experience actually reminded me of the power of the mind, because when the blindness onset, my subconscious and my conscious both were in full-on rebellion. I didn't want to see the future that I could see and knew was coming down the line. I didn't want to see it anymore. And my subconscious quite literally made that my reality. Because I was in a weird position where I didn't realize and acknowledge the choices that I could make. I felt trapped, and I didn't want to see it. And so my subconscious actually created the reality for me.
I tried to press pause. Sorry, I tried to press mute. I apologize at that exact moment, but maybe I sneezed on your truth. So I mean, that's deep, and that's huge, and something like cancer and something like blindness affects the body and affects those around us so much more. Are you willing to elaborate a little bit more on how you talk about the onset of the blindness? It almost sounds like you don't know how it happened. Do you know what the parameters around it were that made it happen, and what are you doing to help heal your body now?
Well, there are no medical explanations for it. Spent thousands upon thousands of dollars, and no medical explanations for it whatsoever. It was believed by many, and myself now, that it was strictly a mindset reaction. It was my subconscious that, in my messaging to my subconscious, that I did not want to see the reality of the world that we had moved into. And I'm almost too aware. So I was hyper aware of everything that was starting to unfold in the world. And I didn't want to. I had seen it all my life. I knew that we were going to come as a society to these places, but I thought it would be after me. I thought I would escape it. And then I find myself right in the middle of it. I'm like, no, I don't want to. No. And I spent 1.5 years in that mindset of, I don't want to see it. I don't want this. And my mind gave me my wish. And so my recovery didn't occur until I started accepting the reality of where we were, where I was, and accepting the future, and being able to walk with boldness and confidence and courage and faith into that future, whether I liked it or not. And so I literally started walking around the house, and whatever I could see, I would say, I love seeing that. I love that I can see the cat. I love that I can see the toilet. I love that I can see. I love that I can see. And the more that I practiced that, the more my vision came back.
Wow.
Interesting.
The power of the mind.
The power of the mind. It's a major factor. So my 2 cancer causations were environmental and mental mindset, emotional mindset were my 2 big causations. And those are the roots of every cancer, really. And any illness for that matter. It doesn't just have to be cancer.
And I think that, some people might say, well, it's got to be more than the mind. But I think that when your mind is in a certain place, your actions then follow as well. And your environment changes based on your mindset. So
Right.
It's not necessarily just mindset alone. For those people who are saying, that's too woo for me, right? Like it goes hand in hand, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can take the physical body and you can feed it all the food, all the supplements, all the water, all the stuff, but if your mind isn't correct and your mind, heart, and body are not connected, then at the very best, all those efforts are going to be diluted. You won't get the full benefit, if you get any benefit at all. But once you get the mind and the heart and the body connected and everything's in alignment and in sync, then all of it starts to flow. You're just in a natural flow of healing and recovery. And it reaches far beyond just resolving cancer or diabetes. It reaches into every aspect of your life. You start to make better decisions about finances. You start to make better decisions about relationships. So you just get into this life flow, and it's completely transforming.
It's very, very powerful. So you mentioned in their supplements, and I know that we've connected over the Redox supplement, and I know that it's something that you're using towards your healing now in your day-to-day life, and with some clients as well. So can you talk to me a little bit about what captured your attention there and how you knew that it was something that needed to be part of your protocol?
Well, I've known all along that cellular healing and cellular health was a critical part of it. We are made of trillions of cells. And I had used nutrition and various things to promote cellular health. But what I loved about the redox signaling was that it was a direct path. It was, I guess that's the right way to put it. It was just a direct, targeted approach. And ingestible and topically, you could hit it from so many different directions and be very targeted in the approach. And it's been extremely beneficial for me. I was left, in my right eye, I was left with this milky, like there's a fluid inside of your eye, and it's trapped. So there's really, once something happens to it, there's really no exit. So if you get inflammation in it, there's no way for the body to dispel it. So I was stuck with this cloudiness. Started using the ASEA for a targeted approach directly in my eye, and oh dear, and my eye went from cloudy to clear very quickly. So huge impact. I've got clients that are using it directly on scar tissue and different sites for different reasons, and things are shrinking and improving, and mobility is increasing. And a client yesterday just messaged me and said, I don't want to miss a day. You've got to get Will on the phone with me so I can order. I've got to order. And she was terrified of it. She said she didn't think that she could ingest it. She said it tastes like pool water. But she's doing it, and she's so excited because she's already gone and spent about 2 weeks. She did blood work, and her blood work has improved. There are actually no markers of cancer left in her body at this point.
Wow.
And she has a tumor. So we're taking a direct approach to that. But the doctors aren't even sure at this point if the tumor is actually cancerous. So we're being very aggressive with it and hitting it from all sides. But ASEA is becoming a big part of that. And, she's using the Renew 28 6 to 8 times a day. She's just being very good with it. And the redox signaling, she's increasing. Another client with breast cancer is loving it. So we're seeing great results in a very short period of time, because most of these people have been on it for, I don't know, 3 weeks maybe.
Yeah, not too long for sure. At this point, I'm just going to say that we are obligated to say that ASEA doesn't diagnose or prevent or reverse any diseases, but what it does do is support the body to have the right connection, to have the right communication, to create the right pathways for healing within the body. That is what we are told that we must say, to follow regulations and guidelines. But the truth is, when you are aggressive with it and when you do use it properly, the way that you could see the body respond is just absolutely incredible. And I look forward to your further journey with it in terms of your own eye health and all of the rest. Can you give us a couple of places where if people want to reach out, learn a little bit more about your cancer coaching or anything that you offer, how would they be able to reach you?
The best way to reach me is good old Facebook. Messenger is a direct access. We've got a rapidly growing cancer coaching group called Love Your Cancer-Free Life. We're about to break 400 in that group. It's growing about 100 a week right now, so that's nice. And then Messenger is my direct access, and then of course I have a website to the programs. And, we're busy launching a retreat, and we are also busy launching a group coaching program. So we're going to take different illnesses like breast cancer patients, and we're going to group them and coach for that. And we're just going to offer that opportunity here coming up, starting this weekend. So there's lots of opportunities, but I'm most easily found on Facebook.
We'll link to all that in the show notes at planttrainers.com. But before I let you go, Carl, can you just let our audience know if they were to change their lifestyle right now to become a little bit healthier, what might be one or two things that you would have them focus on?
The first thing that I would have them focus on is to clean up the mindset. That would be the first thing. You don't have to revisit the past, but you need to acknowledge the past and accept it and start asking for and discovering the lessons and the value in it and make that shift. So move away from I wish I hadn't to I am, and I am blessed and I am healed, shifting that thinking. And then just very simply a return to nature. Start thinking about food and nutrition. How did nature make it? Not how did a laboratory make it, or how did the manufacturer make it, but how did nature, how did God make it? And that's what you want to eat. And when you come into that alignment, and then you layer in things like ASEA, you're just in alignment, and everything then will work. It'll work together. And it's not one item is a fix. It's that layering of it in alignment that creates the solution, becomes a solution, becomes the resolution.
Carl, those are great things to start with. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us on the Plant Trainers podcast.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here.